Are you on the edge of your seat? Because we're about to sound off with Kevin Williams, covering today's latest trends in location-based entertainment. Brought to you by the LBX Collective, your community to connect, engage, and inspire. All right, everyone, let's buckle up.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to Sound Off with Kevin Williams. This is episode number 114 for March 17th, 2025. We are deep in Amusement Expo right now. If you're watching this as it's rolling. So how are you doing, Kevin?
I hope future Kevin has relaxed after having to do his presentation, but I'm doing okay.
All right. Perfect. All right. Well, let's dive into it. How are you going to change my mind this time around?
Well, someone pointed out to me that every one of the competitive socializing venues they're going into now seems to have installed a gamified shuffle table, shuffle environment, shuffleboard system. And it was sort of suggested that maybe this has become the equivalent of the pinball system that was prevalent back in the 80s and 90s, that every arcade that opened had to have a selection of pinball tables. Well, maybe the shuffleboard table is that equivalent.
I mean, I think that's interesting. I mean, it depends if you're walking into, again, I know we're talking about social entertainment. So if you're walking to a social entertainment venue, are you going to have a, one or two or four? I think it depends on what your overall social entertainment mix is. But I think what is interesting about it for operators is the same reason why you used to go into old sports bars. I was thinking old sports bars. We go into sports bars or other bars, and there was always a shuffleboard table, like a non-augmented one, but like a shuffleboard table. I think it's because it can drive some social interaction, some gameplay, people can drink some beers while they're playing it, and it doesn't take up a large footprint, fairly large footprint. And so I wouldn't my venture to guess anyway that the social entertainment operators that are building out these new competitive socializing venues think of it in the same way that these old bars used to when they would throw a shuffleboard table in the corner.
And there's the other argument that if you built a tabletop around the surround of a pinball table, would they still have the same allure? Because this is also being used as a place to park your drink. So from a bar's it is an extension of your table furniture, but also it is generating revenue through being an entertainment system. But it was just an interesting aside.
All right. Well, coming up real quick after the break, we will dive into the trends. Intercard is the only cashless system designed, developed, and manufactured all under one roof. They introduced cashless technology to the amusement industry and have been leading the way for over 30 years. Cashless systems from Intercard increase customer spending, guest satisfaction, and boost revenues by up to 30%. Intercard is so proud to be serving the amusement industry, and if you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon.
Well, thank you. And we'll jump straight into the economic situations. One of the fallouts of the current political and hostilities in the Middle East is the ramifications for investment deals that have been done prior to these developments. And we've heard the first inklings now that some of the Saudi and UAE-based investment projects that had been putting money into purchases of video game studios in the US or the development of location-based entertainment projects have now decided that they will be withdrawing from US-based projects while they reevaluate the economic situation. This will impact projects that had received investment, and especially in the video game side. The Saudi Wealth Fund had been dropping quite a considerable amount of money into various US-based electronics, entertainment, and development projects. If that money dries up, then the implications will be major.
Yeah, this could have a very big impact on the velocity and volume of new attractions, and really, I would say experimental attractions too, that we've been seeing in not just the US market, but in the the UK market, and this is they are comfortable putting money into really unique projects, also expansion projects as well, but unique projects that may or may not find an investment source otherwise.
I'm watching very closely how quickly that Top Golf in Saudi goes up, because again, an example of the slowing of that type of investment would be a slowdown in the construction. But again, this is a flag that has been raised that we need to keep a close eye on. Fallout regarding the tariffs, the beginning of the entertainment industry asking for their pound of flesh back after the confusion and chaos. And we see now Nintendo of America filing a lawsuit to the current White House administration for cash back based upon losses that they incurred due to the application of tariffs that were then later rolled back. This will be the beginning, based upon how successful the monster of Nintendo is, for other companies in the electronics and the entertainment sector to ask for their money back for damages. And this could be a major vibration for the administration.
Yeah, I mean, this is a giant clusterfuck, and it is only going to continue to be further mired as federal judges and lawsuits and stops are put in place, and the new executive orders are put in place, et cetera, et cetera. So this is going to be a mess for a number of years. But Nintendo is obviously not the only company out there filing lawsuits to seek refunds, but they are certainly one of the more prominent ones in our industry.
I was surprised they didn't go for a case action, joining with other companies, but Nintendo will Nintendo.
Yeah.
Jumping out of the economy and looking at the biz, and we did kind of stick our necks out and say that it was obvious that the cancellation of the Middle East IALPA show at the end of this month was inevitable, though for some reason the IALPA Association wanted to take more time to evaluate the situation, and now 8 days later, time of recording, they have bit the bullet and confirmed that they have postponed the event. On top of that, obviously, the TEA summit has been cancelled as well, but no news yet about the Saudi entertainment and attraction show yet, though if I was a betting man, that red sign will be appearing on their hoarding quite soon.
Yeah, there's no way that thing is still going forward. SATE, by the way, SATE. But this I'm glad this was canceled. This was the right thing to do. Just should have been done, 8 days ago.
Yeah, they will feel the heat for that delay, but IALPA will IALPA. We touched upon this in the last sound off. We now have granularity to this. We have detail. As was speculated at the time, Six Flags divesting of its 7 facilities was now going to a new property operation, EPR, and EPR has in time created a new operational facility to manage these extruded entertainment facilities. I still feel that 331 million is incredibly low for the acquisition of 7 ongoing Six Flags Unlimited parks. And, the new structure that is being created has now created a brand new dynasty into our markets. And I would argue that our media in the amusement and theme park sector is pretty laid back about this development. They're sort of taking it as it comes. Enchanted Parks, a brand that we knew about as far back as December, but no one would admit that this brand that has been created last year was going to be taking on this. So a lot of people knew a lot of things in the background here, but kept mum. I'm sure the stockholders at Six Flags will not be happy about that. But we have now Enchanted Parks USA that will be taking over those 6 facilities. Of those 6 facilities, they've confirmed that they will stay for the remainder of the 2026 season under the Six Flags brand, and that all passes and special deals under that banner will be matched and kept, though by 2027, beginning of, these parks will now reflect the Enchanted Park brand. And it is interesting to see how the locals take to the loss of their Six Flags facilities to be replaced by Enchanted Parks. And in Canada, one of those parks will not be taking on the Enchanted brand, as far as we understand, but will just revert to its core original name before the Six Flags acquisition. This still has questions to be raised. There are certain IP in some of these parks, certain of their areas are themed, and how will the owners of those IP feel about not being part of the Six Flags agreement that they originally signed? Will you have to sign new agreements with that? Premier Parks, who will be working with the Enchanted Parks Canada division, will also have their own issues regarding the operation. I originally thought that the Canadian rollout was going to be the easiest of the rollouts from the original Six Flags operation. I've been proven wrong on that. There's a lot of detail in the woodwork that needs to be cut out.
Yeah, this is a really interesting one. Obviously, Enchanted Parks is relatively new, and I'm not sure whether or not the name Enchanted Parks was just created, or if it was an outgrowth of a couple of small parks, some water parks, and some camping sites in Old Forge, New York, which were either an acquisition by this Enchanted Parks holding, or these were some of the parks that Enchanted Parks maybe were originally operating. This is the Enchanted Forest Water Safari, the Calypso's Cove and then also the Old Forge Camping Resort and then the Water's Edge Inn, also all in Old Forge, New York. So again, this could have been, I'm not sure, and I need to do a little more research, but could have been an acquisition by Enchanted Parks Holding, also in conjunction with the Six Flags acquisition, or one done earlier last year before before they made the acquisition of the Six Flags parks. They also own Diggerland in West Berlin, New Jersey,
Yep.
as well. And so quite an odd amalgamation, I guess I'll say, of properties at this point, but certainly a new player in the theme park and amusement park space.
When we were doing the research for this deck, it was clear. I went back and I've forgotten, senility is kicking in, but the Enchanted Parks Holding had changed their name from another company operation in 2025, and that was the operation that had acquired the parks that you were referring to. They are not new to the market, but they are now newly minted, as it were, with this development. And where this goes next, again, are they looking to acquire more parks? Do they have deep enough pockets to do that? Is this a one and done? We will need to see. There's a lot of devil in the detail, really, that we haven't got. Moving on, and devil in the detail is essential. Sometimes CEOs in the C-suites can make some horrendous mistakes. And if you haven't been following the social media, you haven't heard of the burger mogging scenario that's going on at the moment, where you have leading CEOs of burger chains trying to outdo themselves on TikTok and social media. This all stems from the chief executive of McDonald's taking some really ill advice from his marketing team and trying to do a social media, what do they call it, portrait video on TikTok of him eating the brand new burger, which he managed to call a product. So natural, and took one of the smallest bites out of his product known to man, and looked like he was enjoying every second of it. The big arch sales were not helped by that, and the comments on social media saying he looked more of a kale and spinach kind of guy than a burger kind of guy didn't help. And CEOs from other burger chains, being what they are, all jumped on board with their own version of them eating their product and loving every second of it, and some even making some subtle digs. This kind of touches on the argument there's no such thing as bad marketing sometimes, or bad PR, because if you look at the numbers, McDonald's sales actually did kind of go up a little bit based on this failure. But I would also argue, if you look at the other burger chains, they also saw a bump. So all boats floated, even though the bite was a little small.
I just think it's hilarious too to watch it was a tiny little bite, and I think maybe he got only bun, and I'm not even sure he got some meat.
I don't think
but I just love the leading up to it. If you haven't watched this video, you should go and watch it. It's like I think it's like a minute long. But leading up to it too, he's like just staring at this burger as if like, I just really don't want to put my mouth on this thing at all. This looks totally unappetizing. So anyway, I love that the other chain CEOs did this. And some poking of fun. I think it was very well done, by the others. And look, it's good to catch a little ribbing here and there.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've had a McRib. Anyway, moving on, Illuminarium has gone only in Las Vegas, though I'm sitting there with my stopwatch over the Illuminarium brand. For those of you that haven't been following this was one of the earliest of the projection mapped experience companies that wanted to create a chain of 30 or 40 of these facilities dotted across North America, where you walk in, pay your money, and you're transported into immersive experiences based on Africa or space or anything. It's had a very bumpy baptism of fire. It raised a lot of money at the time, raised a lot of eyebrows about the quality of the experience that it was offering. It had some really appalling reviews. But it survived. The Chicago facility went the way of all flesh, but the remaining 3 facilities had carried on going. And every time I was in Vegas, I would stick my head in the Illuminarium just to make sure that it was still open. Well, looks like I'm not going to be able to do that this trip because it went. Though they're still trying to fight their corner, claiming that it hasn't really closed, but it's going to be reimagined, offering a brand new immersive experience. I'm not going to hold my breath on this, and I have started the stopwatch on the other 2 remaining Illuminarium facilities. I'm prepared to stick my neck out that I think that they put themselves in a very difficult position. Even though they've tried other applications, they've dropped VR into one of their facilities to see if that works. They created a music experience based on an IP. They created a Rolling Stones, I think, experience. They've even tried immersive yoga in their spaces. And it is clear from the current management team that they haven't quite understood what the word immersive means on the front of their building.
Yeah. Well, I do not remember that they only opened back in 2023. For some reason, I thought it has been open for longer than that.
It feels like it. Yeah.
It feels like it, because when we went and visited the first time, must have been back in 2023 when it opened. I was deeply unimpressed by it. I mean, sure, it was projection mapped on walls, and you could walk around, but it was such a relatively plain experience. I'm just shocked and surprised that it has continued to last this long. Definitely did not think it would. We called this closing, probably a number of years ago, if not after we visited it originally. So I hope that they do something with this new universe of immersive experiences, whatever that looks like. But that's expensive real estate to continue to sit unutilized and not generating foot traffic and revenue. So whatever they come back with is going to have to be dynamic, especially when it sits right alongside, or right near anyway, phase 2 of Area 15, with all of the IP-driven immersive experiences and experiences that may not be IP-driven, but that are really unique, like Interstellar Arc, that have a much deeper level of immersion than what Illuminarium has had for the last few years.
How you can survive next door to the Felix and Paul experience is very difficult if you're not offering comparable, let alone better, than immersion. Our friends at Toca Social have finally landed in the United States. This is a baptism of fire for them, or a rite of passage with flames. The issue is that they've dropped themselves into Texas, and they've also dropped themselves into Grandscape, which is a crowded entertainment hub. We are interested to see that they haven't changed the basic model of Toca Social that much compared to what they opened originally in the UK at the O2 or at some of their other locations in the United Kingdom. I would have thought that they would have maybe have gone a little heavier on the competitive socializing component, though they seem to have spent quite a lot on the bar that this facility has. I would argue that this will be under the microscope regarding how the American audience compared to the European audience takes to this soccer game experience.
Well, you know, when we visited, I mean, now granted, I grew up playing soccer, so I'm a big soccer fan myself personally. But when we visited it in, well, I was in London. I don't remember exactly the exact location we visited, but it was in London. I was really impressed by the experience. You know, I always continue to struggle with any social entertainment venues that have a single entertainment focus, and that is beyond the F&B. I mean, and so that it will always continue to be a concern and an issue, I think, in these environments. I think the one advantage here is that they are at Grandscape in the Colony in Texas, and there are a lot of entertainment options. And yes, while that can be both a competitive pressure for Toca Social, it also is an opportunity, because somebody may go to a putt shack and have fun playing mini golf and see Toca Social and say, hey, that looks like fun. We should do that next weekend with a group of friends. And that is the advantage of being in a entertainment, retailtainment district like Grandscape.
I also argue the TripAdvisor selection. You go to TripAdvisor, you type in that you're going to be at Grandscapes, show me the entertainment that's there. Now you are part of that list of different things, and hopefully you stand out because of your reviews and that you're a unique immersive entertainment sports experience. I would argue that a number of the entertainment in that area are not that interactive or to this level of active entertainment, shall we say. I would also point that this is also a location where Sixes, a ball launch sports entertainment cocktail driven platform, didn't succeed. So we will be keeping a close eye on this, and if this isn't followed very quickly by another opening, it's taken Toca Social quite some time to ramp up from their first opening at the O2 that we visited, and now only having 4 facilities open and your first American facility opening, there'll be a lot of questions from the investment community about, is this on a trajectory that is going to set the world afire, especially as this year is a World Cup year. For those of you that are interested in the Taurus of Pain, there it is. I would like to pull Toca Social down a little bit more into the hospitality side, but again, that Taurus of Pain is going to get some changes soon after Amusement Expo.
Indeed. All right, well, coming up after the break, we'll continue with the trends. Power up your game floor with Arcades by Alan One. Whether it's perfectly pouring drinks in Dr. Pepper Soda Slam, grabbing official Butts on Things plushies, or defending cities from attack and missile command recharge, Alan One has something for every venue and arcade floor that will delight your guests. Each game is also enhanced with Major League Esports, a free app that tracks player top scores and brings guests back to your venue for more. Visit allen-one.com to learn more. That's allen-one.com.
Thank you for that. And we jump into the trending tech. And one of the tech specialists at Sally Dark Rides, celebrating 22 years with the company, has decided to retire. John is a well-known individual in the industry, a very passionate individual regarding the application of immersive technology, and a lot of the things that have driven the Sally Dark Ride series of platforms and attractions internationally can be laid at his feet. So I just wanted to make a point of wishing him the best on his retirement, and looking forward to seeing how Sally will restructure now moving forwards. Moving on, and we touched upon this a little bit in Open and Shut, that I had listed in one of the new openings or one of the new developments in that sector, a venue that doesn't allow people into play. Well, indirectly. Claw Crazy has in Detroit been running their warehouse of machines, and this is an example of what we would call the live play system, where you have cameras pointed at specially converted claw machines that can be controlled through a mobile game app or platform app, so you can play the machine as if you were standing there, and if you win the prize is sent to you. This is part of a very successful platform that we've seen in Japan. They don't just do claw machines, they also do some of the other amusement platforms out there, but this is kind of the second bite of the cherry in the American market of this live play concept. Just at the tail end of COVID, we saw these things migrate from their success in Japan into the US market. A number of companies tried, a number of companies fell by the wayside. Even our friends Bandai Namco in Europe had a go at running a clawcade, live play clawcade facility in one of their warehouses spaces, and in the end gave up and just reverted to the Japanese system. And if here with Claw Crazy, we're actually seeing a company expanding their operation by adding more claw machines as well as more amusement machines. If we just jump over to Japan, we see the the phenomenal success of that live play base, what they call online crane games. I prefer live play. Anyway, the Tato operation started back in 2010. So this is long before the COVID situation. So don't get suckered in by some writers saying that this was caused by COVID. There has been an interest in live play, automated mobile app, and online app-based play, and if it's done right, it generates a very interesting audience and is a fantastic marketing tool.
Yeah, this is one that has always fascinated me. I mean, again, this is not new. Claw Crazy just seems to be the one that has gained, perhaps the most viral success. Part of that is because of their founder, Trevor Donner, who, was really obsessed with crane machines and claw machines since from a very young age, and was like a little bit of a YouTube influencer before going and starting Claw Crazy, and so that may be some of that reason, but. Yeah, this has not been. This is just fascinating because I don't play a lot of claw machines myself personally, and the idea of doing them remotely and then having something shipped to me is really interesting. I think I might just rather buy that on Amazon and have it delivered to me with a lot less work. But again, I know I am not the target audience for the claw machine, and it's only gonna. I think this will only continue to grow, especially as we see a little bit of the implosion over the next few years of what I think will be an implosion anyway, of all of the different claw machine clawcades that we are seeing popping up everywhere. This will probably be one of those that actually survives and comes, maybe even rises to the top as a result.
Not getting too much ahead of ourselves, but there's talk of automated operation, where machines that could be played by players can also be remotely operated or linked into a live play system. That would mean that your clawcade could be making money while the facility is closed to the public. So late at night, the lights will be on inside your clawcade and their machines will be still being actively played. There's a lot of opportunities here. Specialized merch inside of machines is a draw to certain sites over other sites. But again, it didn't run out of the gates as a success in the Western market compared to what has happened in the Asian market. But it seems to be gaining momentum. Again, as you said, maybe linked to those influencer trends. Moving on, and Adam has already touched upon this, so I'm not going to go into too much details. Our friends at Bandai Namco partnered with Capcom to create a environmental cabinet shooting game based upon a biohazard property. Very interesting to see them jump back into creating unique environmental cabinets that pull to the market, though this only seems to have done a very light test in the Western market and is being pushed much more heavily in the Asian market using the Biohazard brand rather than Resident Evil brand. Either way, Capcom firing their juices and still showing a strength in the amusement sector was repeated again with the announcement that Capcom had developed a new take on their entertainment facility. They have about 40 odd facilities in the Japanese market of their amusement chain. Most of them are traditional amusement facilities, but now we have comics. I'm sure that's how they would like it pronounced, which feels a little bit like an emulation of what we've seen with the Namco cross-store kind of approach, but much more heavier with entertainment. It has their virtual reality attraction in there that Capcom developed under their VRX chain. It also has their active entertainment components, their Banat chain, which kind of is like the sports round one entertainment offering. Nice location in Osaka City, so they're putting a lot of energy behind this, and I'm looking forward to seeing if this one does well, how quickly we'll see the next comics.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I think the Namco the Namco connection or comparison, I think, is probably the better one. I know that on the InnovateX show a couple of days ago, I said that this was maybe related. It had a similar feel to like a smaller version of a Wonderverse, a Sony Wonderverse, or like a Fever Netflix partnership pop up or something to that extent. But I think you're right. I think the Namco cross what was it? The Namco cross store. Thank you. I was going to say cross mix, but I was getting my brands mixed together. Yeah, exactly. Cross store is probably a better comparison. Definitely a retailtainment environment focused on pushing sales of their Capcom IP and merchandise.
Yep, that is 100% from this, and this seems to be the common denominator between a lot of these new uptakes of entertainment facilities we're seeing from the Japanese core factories. They have their IP, they've nailed down their IP relationships, they have their facilities, their bricks and mortar. So my transmedia bullywig is brought forwards with this kind of approach. The other thing about this is that it is your space to control. So again, you can promote your latest updates and new products within these stores much more than you could in a more traditional amusement space. Touching on VR and the ramifications that are going through the consumer VR sector, they do have an impact, obviously, to us in location-based entertainment. And one of the developers of a very successful VR experience for our friends at Zero Latency, the Far Cry VR game experience, developed by a company called Endreams in the UK. Very well known in the VR sector in the consumer side, but it was also a company that diversified also to do location-based entertainment content. And they just had to turn around and say they're restructuring. They're laying off what they say 70% of their staff. It's about 78 employees. They're closing down certain of their investments. And all of this really cycles round the problems that they've had finding a business model that's profitable in the consumer sector. In the location-based entertainment sector, they found that their talents were wanted, but the financial returns were not as great as what were being promised in the consumer side. The only problem has come to pass is that those consumer promises never materialized. And having been recently acquired back in 2023 by a Swedish financial operation, those hopes of seeing a massive return on the $110 million that had been invested in them or had been used to acquire them never materialized. And so they've cut back. as we said, 70%. And we will also see a repositioning of the company's positioning on consumer VR. And that kind of leads us to the explosion that we've seen in the next gen. I would call this the next phase, but we had with the launch of the Apple Vision Pro, a kind of a new charge of the form factor and the operational model of what that box on your head, that head-mounted display would do. A lot more pointing towards spatial computing, a lot more using a cable tethered to a battery pack to make these much more lighter and ergonomic, much more of a mixed reality headset rather than a virtual reality definite headset. We've seen that with Apple. We've seen that now with Samsung. And recently, Pico announced their entry with the Pico Swan that follows a very similar form factor. And even a leak from our friends at Meta has allowed us to see the one of their concepts, which they're proposing to launch in 2027, presented 2020, end of this year, launched next year is the current rumor, but we can all see that they're all following the same form factor. Now, I am color me kind of concerned because I understand that all of these systems seem to be following the form factor and the design structure of the Apple Vision Pro. I just want to point out that the Apple Vision Pro hasn't kind of proven itself to be a success. So if this is lemmings marching off the edge of the cliff, this will make 2027 a very interesting year for the latest phase of VR in the consumer sector, but also pushes much more pressure on us in location-based entertainment to make sure that we ensure that we're not following the same drummer.
I think part of the issue, I mean, not that it was the right time or the right product, but part of the issue was the cost that Apple, of course, comes out with. I mean, the Vision Pro was not cheap. It was heavy. Its battery life wasn't there. I mean, it was a little bit ahead of, maybe early for what the technology allowed it to do. That being said, I think with MR, we still are lacking especially MR in this form factor, we are lacking the killer app. That is it. It's missing the killer app. And until that killer app comes into fruition, these headset manufacturers will continue to struggle. And none of them seem to be focused on solving for what that killer app is. Apple tried to do some things with some of the high definition sports and other things that you could get with those subscriptions. And presumably I'm going to sit on my couch and watch a sports game with my Vision Pro.
As long as it's under an hour.
Versus watching on my big screen TV. But we really need to see something from either one of these manufacturers or from one of their partners that will actually give a consumer the reason to invest and spend any amount of time with one of these things on their face.
This is very much, for me, as a history buff, the railway moment or the railroad moment in American history. You know, all of those entrepreneurs that built townsteads along the hoped route of the railway. So when the railway came into town, they would be able to benefit and grow from that communication. These guys are building homesteads and saloons and casinos, hoping that they're on the path of where the internet or the technology railroad is going to be heading. I think, personally speaking, that until we have that killer app, this is a gamble too far. And I get the feeling that this may be the last gamble by some of these companies in this sector. If the railroad doesn't turn up, then they're shutting down and the tumbleweeds will take over. But talking point, I had the pleasure of attending the Experience Economy Forum in London. It is a gathering of innovators and operators ranging from museums to competitive socializing to pop-up marketing, entertainment and theme park developers. It is a brains trust. There are many of these kinds of forums for various parts of the international market, though If you're familiar with the Experience UK website, that is a dedicated association and media service that covers the sector quite broadly. Very nice guys behind it, and we've been working with them on and off over the years. I'm suffering my senior moments at the moment, and one of the organisers of the show beat me over the head to remind me that I'd actually presented at one of these conferences more than 10 years ago. So that shows the problems I'm suffering. Anyway, this was held at the Science Museum in London, a famous museum covering all aspects of innovation and technology. And upstairs, there's the flight area where they have classic and influential aircraft and engines and all of the history of that. They also stuck inside, over 200 of us, to listen to a number of presentations. I'm not going to go through all the presentations. I'm just going to cherry pick, if you will allow me. Our friends from Fever and Merlin had a fireside chat together. Very interesting. They were talking how the two operations were working together to improve the guest experience by using technology and applications. It was the first time that I had actually seen Fever and Merlin actually admitting to a closer relationship. And it begged a lot more questions. Sadly, the two individuals ran away before the first mix, so we couldn't ask them more questions. But it kind of was telling that this is something that we're going to be hearing a lot more about, of this kind of close relationship between a ticketing, social media and marketing operation and an established theme park and attractions entertainment operator. Our friends from Little Lions waved their flag and promoted their arcade arena concept, and also what they're doing regarding IP crossover, the stuff they do with their Crystal Maze, the stuff they've done with the Puckman live experience were just examples, and they gave us a little bit of glimpse under the hood to see some of the other developments that they're working on for their future, with a London facility planned to open in a matter of months' time. The company is working at all pace to secure their position in what is turning into a very crowded market. One of the shocking developments, which is nice to go to an event and actually be shocked and shaken awake rather than being lulled into the comfort and sleep of a conference session. Leeds Castle, not in Leeds, at the bottom end of the country, a very historic venue, has invested in a very modern technology. They have created an AI avatar of one of the former inhabitants of Leeds Castle, and with Queen Eleanor's AI platform, they went into a lot of detail about what they can and can't do in creating an AI avatar of this level that has to be interacted with by the guests of the facility. And a lot of points that I hadn't thought about of how you control the AI avatar from not making a fool of itself and not over speaking and keeping within character was revealed to us by this presentation. It was amazing. We were lucky enough to be the first in the sector to actually see this operational. I would argue it's the beginning of something that's quite astounding, though hopefully we don't have to boil all of the lakes in all of the world to create this particular technology. I can see if it works, if this first installation works out successfully, closely followed by another application in the UK in a couple of months' time, that this will be the death of the mannequin near enough, and that rather than seeing those behind glass mannequins wearing the flight uniform of a long dead pilot, we will actually see maybe a AR mannequin wearing a digital recreation of that kit and answering questions to all. And it is that level of being able to answer a question from an adult and answering a question from a child that really did make us understand the difficulty and the complexity of what an AI avatar really representing the museum, education, and entertainment sector. And then finally, we had a competitive socializing component added to this event. It's an important part of our sector, especially from the experience economy side. They were very keen to incorporate this, and we were lucky enough to have the team who are developing the Game Show Live platform that we've talked about in previous Open and Shut. We had a previous founder of Gravity give us a little bit more idea of what it took to develop the Gravity's Max chain of 4 competitive socializing entertainment facilities, and we also had a director from Clay's, and they went into a little bit more detail of what it takes. We will cover this in much more detail in the Stinger report, obviously, but one thing that I took away from this is that we are at an interesting point in time for competitive socializing, where even the established names that have multiple chains out there are beginning to look very closely at what is needed to create a sticky, retented audience mix for this. There is a strong danger that if that stickiness isn't found soon, then we could see a flash in the pan regarding competitive socializing, where a lot of facilities open, are one and dones, people don't go back, and then they're replaced by something else. So we are at a crucial point, though that iceberg that's sailing towards us isn't in the vision of many of the leaders in that sector, but those that have been through the rodeo once are definitely getting that feeling. And then finally, quite apposite, the mixer of the event was held downstairs in the Science Museum's new attraction. They would call it exhibit, which is called Power Up. And it is a walk through memory lane for some of us, showing the evolution of video gaming, consumer video gaming. There was one amusement machine in there and a couple of emulators showing what amusement machines were like. But I thought it was quite telling, having conversations with certain people about gamification while leaning against a Atari VCS machine. But anyway, that was the snapshot that I wanted to impart from this event, and we will be covering this, as I said, in a little bit more detail in the Stinger report.
Yeah, I'm glad you had a chance to go. I would have loved to have been at this InnovateX. I'll call it an expo, but it's more of a conference. I've been a longtime follower of Experience UK, so if any of you listeners have not subscribed to Experience UK's newsletter, certainly do that. It's actually very excellent. I mean, it's not just covering the UK sector. They do cover global trends in the experience economy, and would highly recommend you give that a read when it comes out, which I think is about weekly, maybe, or every couple of days. It's not a daily. Yeah, bi-weekly. So anyway, it is an excellent source of news, and because we can't all be in London like Kevin, and so that gives gives some snapshot into really some of the amazing things that are coming out of the UK and specifically out of London, as what I think is probably the immersive center, the immersive experience center of the world, or at least the Western world at this point.
Agreed. Anyway, this is the last time we'll see this slide. So hopefully real Kevin, rather than virtual Kevin here, is walking the show floors, tired feet, but in detailed conversations with hopefully some of the people that are actually watching this. The issues are, on the 16th, when we do the competitive socializing side, we're going to try and focus on its crossover into the amusement side. And you'll have noticed in recent sound offs and open and shuts how much amusement still has a part to play in this sector. We're looking forward to an interesting event. The next big event on our calendar will be AWE, the Augmented World Expo, which has now added added a location-based entertainment side to its operation. I'm not sure if we've got competitive socializing in there yet. The issues are that this will be the key location for the LBE sector to gather and talk about innovation and development, though we will see XR at AWE and at IALPA. Really, it is a crowded universe, and it's very difficult to make your voice heard amongst your peers there. Well, this will be an opportunity for us to get a handle on not just the new innovation, but also the direction, that stickiness that is needed to move the technology on. Anyway, that's it for this week. I'm looking forward to the rest. The LinkedIn details are there if you have any information you want to pass on. And thank you to those individuals who sent me some links recently. We have some Stinger reports out. We have some more Stinger reports out soon. And if you want to use our email details are there. Anyway, Brandon, time for me to get on a plane, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you, yeah, there was another great sound off, Kevin. And yeah, I guess I'll see you in like, 5 minutes because we're hanging out together in Vegas. I don't know. No, just kidding.
Real me
right now. This is
virtual me says,
yeah.
See you soon. Real me says hello.
Yes, perfect. All right, everybody. We'll see you on the next sound off in just 1 week.